What is up, Bulls of Ball Street family? We are back with this UFC Nashville fight night, an electric matchup between the KO King, Derrick Lewis, and newcomer Tallison Teixeira. Should be a fun fight. Let's get into it.
We are back, Spider-Man. All right, that's all I got. On to the next one. Melissa Martinez versus Fatima Klein. I'm not sure I'm familiar with Melissa. I know I've watched Fatima fight before, but I'm curious how we should be expecting this fight to go.
Yeah, the odds on this one are absolutely insane. When I was looking at it earlier, I think Fatima is like a minus 1,500 favorite or something. That's obviously insane. You can't really bet on this fight, but Fatima is, I'd say, decidedly better than Melissa Martinez in the sense that she's more well-rounded. I think if it goes to the ground, it's going to be a huge problem for Melissa, who is powerful and does a good job of staying in your face on the feet, like coming forward at you. And she has knockouts for sure. Like she's very strong. She's very tough. Pretty good striking generally, like bounces around on her feet. The takedown defense just isn't very good from what I've seen, and that's pretty much where I expect Fatima to go instantly. And from what I've seen, Melissa's kind of fish on the ground, so it should just be a pretty easy Klein grappling heavy win.
I'm assuming these are Klein's stats. They're both the same, but I'm assuming these are Klein's.
Oops, yeah.
This one, it doesn't really matter because I feel like this one's going to be a hard pass from everyone. Seems like a worthy favorite, but just for someone who's relatively new, it's tough to fully commit to that price. There's not going to be a ton of value in this fight. And it's probably going to go over 2.5 rounds as well. So tough to really analyze it from that standpoint as well. It does feel like Fatima is probably on a similar trajectory to some of the past grapplers we've seen, maybe like an Erin Blanchfield or someone. I don't know if she's quite as talented, but seems like someone who could probably soar up these rankings in the nearby future here. So exciting to watch, I guess, just to see what she's really about. But I think this one's going to be a pass.
Yeah,
I'm just going with Klein by knockout. We'll see if the line's correct or I look like an idiot. On to the next one. We've got Mitch Ramirez versus Mike Davis. Yeah, what should we expect from this one?
pretty sure this is another enormous favor if someone could verify Mike Davis.
Yeah, it's Davis minus 1,000.
Yeah, so I do think it's going to be Mike Davis. Mike did lose to Fares Ziam, but that was I forget exactly. I think it was a Saudi card. I forget exactly which card it was, but it was the night where everybody was saying that because of the new paint drying in the locker room, there were like 6 different fighters with breathing problems. I don't know if you guys remember that. But so there was just some weird stuff going on that night. Normally, Mike has pretty good cardio, usually in pretty good condition. Just a weird night, sort of. But overall, good fighter, pretty well-rounded guy, good kickboxing, pretty good decision-making in the cage. Mitch Ramirez, he is a pretty durable guy. He was able to land a takedown on Carlos Prates on Dana White's Contender Series. I just think it should be a pretty easy Mike Davis win. Thiago Moises was able to do a lot of damage to Mitch Ramirez on the feet. I know Mike Davis throws in a lot of like the lower body kicks and stuff like Thiago does. So I think it should be a pretty easy win for him.
Yeah, if I had to say, I would obviously take Mike Davis. I think he's probably a worthy favorite. Like you said in that Ziam fight, though, he just didn't look super locked in. Looked pretty uncharacteristic for him or how he's looked in the past. So you just got to see if he uses that as a way to get more locked in on his training and stuff, or if that just kind of like breaks him and he's content just hanging around in the UFC and doesn't really have too much ambition. So I guess we'll see. So this one, again, at that line at minus 1,000, like not a ton of value, not something you're really going to be placing even as like a parlay kicker or something. You're not really going to be using this line. So probably another pass, but I think he should cruise and probably correct some of his wrong steps from last fight.
Yeah, Mike Davis by sub. On to the next one. Kennedy Njoku versus Walter Walker. This is actually going to be somewhat of an interesting one because I've heard Walter Walker's good. I've heard he's bad. So I'm curious to see how we kind of discern this one.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much a good way to describe how like the progression of Walter Walker has been. He came in his debut, looked absolutely terrible, and now is coming off back-to-back heel hook submission wins. Looks like he put in the work. He's kind of locked in now, looking a lot better. And they're giving him a matchup that kind of represents him looking a little bit better than he did in his debut in Kennedy Njoku. And it'll be an interesting one here. Walter doesn't rely. He usually has a reach advantage, but he's like a big time wrestler, grappler. Doesn't rely on the reach a ton, I would say. Whereas Kennedy does a lot of the time. He is a little bit low volume at times, and that's because he's pretty good at managing range with that insanely long reach, 83 inches, and he is still going to have a pretty big reach advantage here. But he usually, believe it or not, has an even bigger reach advantage on people. Like Walter Walker's a huge dude at 6'6". So maybe a little bit of an advantage there for Walter. I guess a disadvantage compared to how Kennedy normally fights for Kennedy. But yeah, he's a good striker, very long, powerful guy. Can definitely get hit, take a beating, has pretty good chin. Most recently knocked out Luca Bresci. Walter, really good wrestler. He's Brazilian, but unlike his brother, he trained in Russia, so that's where his wrestling background comes from. Not a very good striker. Like I said, he looked terrible in that debut, but 2 heel hook finishes in a row now. I am going to go with the dog, Walter Walker here. I am a little bit concerned about the cardio still, just because the previous 2 wins happened so quick. So we didn't really get any sort of preview at a potential cardio improvement, because he did gas a bit in that first fight where he looked really bad, and it did go a little bit further. So that is my concern with Walter Walker. But Kennedy can be super gun shy, and Walter's really good at diving underneath big shots and landing the takedowns. And if he gets it to the ground, he's an absolute problem. Kennedy is not great on the ground at all. So if he's able to close the distance, get it to the ground at some point, I think it's going to look pretty good for Walter Walker. And I think the odds are great to bet on too, at like around plus 170.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, unfortunately. Or I guess potentially fortunately, but I feel like we've been siding together a lot recently. I just think there's a little bit of value because we don't really know too much about Njoku's takedown defense. I think he kind of stat padded that 81% number a lot in his early career. Not a lot of heavyweights that are really utilizing their grappling all that much either. So kind of a first for him against a guy who's really skilled at pulling off takedowns and subs. So yeah, just before maybe he's not a good grappler and we get the value here and we can capitalize on that. Also could be proven wrong. He could be built for it, but I think just with all the relative unknown here, I think taking the underdog who has a clear advantage in one realm is probably the way I'm going to go.
Yeah, I'm just going with Walker decision here. It makes so much more sense. I've been on Kennedy Njoku fraud watch for quite some time. So here we are again. All right, on to the next one. Lauren Murphy versus Eduarda Mora. Yeah, should we? Well, Mora's price seems like she's pretty dominant in this one, but I'll let you take it away here.
Yeah, I'll keep this one short because I do have Eduarda. Lauren just isn't really skilled at all. She's also really old at this point. She's just a grinder. Like she's not technical on the ground or on the feet. Mora is just a far better grappler, more explosive, faster, younger. Like it should be Eduarda Mora.
Yeah, let's rock with Mora.
Yeah, Mora by decision. So we'll see how that one goes. All right, Jake Matthews versus Chidi Njoku. I feel like Chidi's kind of had an interesting career so far. So let's walk through it.
Totally, yeah. This is one I've been kind of in between on because it's a really close fight. Have some concerns about Chidi and the weight cuts. He's a really, really long guy for this class. Fighting at 170 is really light. But he seems to have found some comfortability at this weight class with that knockout win over Elizeu in the last fight. But he did get rocked in that one. And Elizeu's also kind of old, but he's super long, good Muay Thai, pretty good in the clinch. Elbows and knees are nasty. Definitely has knockout power. Jake, well-rounded dude. He can grapple, he can strike, makes some weird decisions sometimes, but he's well-rounded. He can get takedowns, tough guy. Most notably, or not most notably, but notably took a round away from Michael Morales in their fight. And we know how good he is. One thing, I'm going to take Chidi Bang Bang here, but one thing that concerns me is that we did see Jake Matthews beat, a guy who has a kind of similar build as Chidi and Phil Rowe, another tall, long boxer. But I just don't think Phil can mix it up on the feet nearly as well as Chidi can. The weight cut does worry me a little bit. Jake Matthews can definitely get to Chidi's like skinny little legs, but I think his work in the clinch could make that difference, like making him pay when he does come in on those entries and try to shoot takedowns, like hitting him with the knees, hitting him with the elbows. He's good in the clinch, so he just needs to stave off those takedowns, and it should be a win for him.
Yeah, I think Chidi is probably the clear advantage here as well. I'm taking his side. I just feel like one of his biggest concerns is he's been a little bit chinny in the past, and I don't think Jake Matthews really has the power to capitalize on that. He only has one actual knockout in his career. That's 21 UFC bouts, so a pretty rare occurrence for him. And I feel like if we just see a striking match for 15 minutes here, I expect Chidi to land the more powerful strikes and probably be able to manage some of that reach advantage as well. A 7-inch reach advantage is a huge advantage in a fight like this, where it's probably going to be standing up a lot, and he should be able to kind of just outpoint his opponent. I don't know if Chidi's really going to fight towards that knockout as well, but should just do more damage with the slight power advantage. So.
Yeah, I just think the distance is going to play a factor here. He's really only lost to like kind of higher prospect tiered strikers, and that of like Michael Lowe and Greg. Like split decision is kind of a bleh, in my opinion. So I'm rocking with Chidi by decision. On to the next one. We have Max Griffin versus Chris Curtis, who I always feel like I'm just watching in the background of some sort of like Sean Strickland video that pops up on the internet. So what should we be expecting here?
Yeah, Chris Curtis, I believe, is a pretty big favorite in this one, coming off that knockout loss to Roman Kopylov. He lost in the third round, I believe. He's a good striker, particularly good counter striker, decent head movement, like good striking defense. Definitely a dog, super powerful. Dropping down to welterweight, which he has fought at before. It was like in his first UFC fight of his career, but it's like that was a super long time ago at this point. Going up against Max Griffin, who is another really powerful guy, definitely a striker, has a pretty decent resume of knockouts, also can grapple. You'll notice that he averages 1.37 takedowns per fight. Just subbed Michael Chiesa. I think, this could be a problem for Chris if it does go to the ground, but he has such good takedown defense, and Chris has never really entertained the wrestling or grappling at all. He has attempted zero takedowns in his UFC career, I'm pretty sure. I think he should win. The weight cut is always a little bit concerning because he's 37. Making a change like this always could have negative implications if it doesn't go the right way, but he has, like I said, fought at welterweight before, so hopefully that bodes well for him. I'm going to pick Chris.
Yeah, I'm not super passionate about it. I think the odds should probably be a little more narrow than this one is currently sat at, but I'm going to rock with Chris Curtis as well. I don't see a reason to back Max Griffin here.
I'm going to rock with Max Griffin because I just don't really think Chris Curtis. I don't know. I just got a weird feeling. So we'll see how my casualness plays out on this one. All right, Junior Tafa versus Tuco Tacos. What should we be expecting here?
Yeah, this is a funny matchup. It's also funny that this is on the main card compared to some of the other fights like Max Griffin, Chris Curtis, Kennedy Nchukwu, Walter Walker. I feel like those are probably both better main card options than this, but somehow one of the Tafa brothers snuck onto a main card again. Likely because this fight has just been meaning to go down for a while. Tafa's making his move down to light heavyweight. Younger brother of Justin Tafa, obviously. He physically, I think, definitely had the room to move down to light heavyweight. I think it would be really good for the division if Junior Tafa came down to light heavyweight and just looked like a lot sharper. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case, though. I really don't think, like, skill-wise, Junior Tafa is very good at all. Pretty good kickboxer. Moves around pretty nicely for his size. Can be low volume at times for sure. Kind of sits behind his jab from the outside a lot of the fight. Nothing to offer really on the ground. Really tough, though. Good chin. Not very good takedown defense. I mean, the takedown defense, all right. But coming off people can take him down for sure. He's coming off a short notice knockout win over Sean Sharaf. Tuco Tokos, he's perfectly comfortable striking, but the game plan is to get you against the cage, get you to the ground. He wants to grapple with you, garner control time on top. Pretty good takedowns too. You'll see he averages 2.65. He's winless in the UFC, but those takedowns are good. He lowers his level well. Isn't really a submissions guy, more so just sits on top of you, getting that control time. Pretty good cardio, enough cardio to go 3 rounds on top of you controlling. I think I am going to go with Tuco Tokos here. I just think if it goes to the ground, it's going to be a problem. Junior pretty much has nothing to offer there. And I know Tuco is going to be trying to take it there the whole fight. Never been super impressed by Tafa, like generally, even in the striking department. Like, he's pretty good. Just wish he was a little bit more well-rounded. So I think this is a decent spot to take Tuco.
Yeah, I'm just taking the underdog as well. I feel like Tafa just kind of sucks, to be honest. Like, I've never been impressed by one of his fights. I feel like every time you go in convincing yourself a little bit that he's going to be able to knock out an opponent or pull something off, but he just never does. Tokos might be less skilled than Tafa, which is saying a lot, but I just think he's actually tough and is more of a dog. Like, I feel like Tafa just kind of like, he could take one punch and then just kind of like sulk in the corner and quit the rest of the fight. So I'm going to take the guy that I know is going to be involved at least and is going to be like pushing forward and trying to get a victory in this one. So I'm going to rock with Tokos.
Let's go.
Yeah, I just don't really see why Tafa is a favorite. I just don't understand that, to be honest. So Tacos by decision.
Let's go. Yeah, I mean, it's like I would like to see it. I feel like it would genuinely be sick to see Junior Tafa like fight at light heavyweight and just randomly be sick, but I don't know.
I'm surprised he's in the UFC at this point, to be honest. Yeah. All right. Vitor Petrino versus Austin Lane. Yeah. So what should we be expecting here? The line seems to be pretty heavy in favor of Petrino.
What does that tattoo say? ZTAYT?
Yeah.
Ztate.
Is that like a fraternity?
I don't know what that is.
He was an NFL player. Could have something that seems like some sort of football-y type thing. But yeah, this is another interesting one. Pretty sure Vitor Petrino is like an 8-1 favorite or something now.
750.
But yeah, the UFC definitely pushed him pretty fast. You would think, because we've been hearing his name for so long, that he was older than he is. He's only, I think, 27 years old. But he's a really dangerous guy, well-rounded in the sense that he can grapple, he can strike, very powerful on the feet, super explosive, athletic. He's not amazing anywhere, like technically speaking, but the jiu-jitsu is good. Big, strong, super powerful. Coming off the knockout loss to Dustin Jacoby, which was definitely a scratch on his resume. But he was winning that fight pretty clearly, just got clipped in the third round. Would have won a decision had he not. But he did lose. So Austin Lane, super big dude, 6'6", former NFL player, like I was saying, not skilled really, kind of just holds you against the cage, tries to get you to the ground. Also, can't really strike with anybody for too long because his chin is so suspect. I think Petrino should pretty easily get the win. Lane doesn't have a chin. Don't think he's in any world I see him out grappling Petrino. So I imagine it's going to be a Petrino knockout.
Yeah, I'm on Petrino as well. It's probably a pass just with the value, but
yeah,
just straight up money line. I don't see him losing. Austin Lane's a decent grappler, but it just doesn't really have the instinct to fight towards submission and really pull off any moves once he's down there. So he's really gonna have to just kind of stall his fight out and try to outpoint some rounds on the ground just by strictly wrestling, which you can also fall into a sub that way. Not that Petrino's great at it, but it's more possible in his case. Also the better striker. Like I just don't see a path to victory here unless he's just fully taking like top control for 8 minutes of this fight or something. So
yeah, I mean Petrino by knockout. I don't expect the former NFL player to transition well at all here. All right, Nate Landwehr versus Morgan Charrier. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one because I remember like Charrier had like a -700 knockout line or something like that and then missed it or something.
Yeah, versus Nathaniel Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nathaniel Wood is like I'd say pretty good, honestly. But yeah, that was people were kind of saying fraud after that. Nathaniel Wood almost dropped. I mean, he did drop him. He almost finished him. But Morgan's a good fighter, in my opinion. He was able to survive almost getting knocked out there. He showed his toughness at least. Continued to fight. Very skilled guy, well-rounded. He can grapple, he can strike. Really good cardio. I'd say he has a lot of losses on his resume for someone his age, but I think a few of those were kind of weird decisions. At least a couple of them. He's not your typical French fighter in the sense that he is a knockout threat. He won't kind of just dance around the outside. The savant style is pretty much the most pervasive striking style in French MMA fighters. He isn't really like that. And he's better, when he's engaging too. And I think that's exactly what Nate Landwehr is going to make him do because he's such a hot starter. Nate pretty much tries to get it going super fast. He's super wild, always coming forward, looking for a finish. Not the most durable dude in terms of his chin, but super athletic, really high pace fighter. And I think that kind of plays into what Charrier does best because he's such an explosive striker when he wants to be too. And he's, I'd say, just better everywhere kind of than Nate Landwehr is. So I think Morgan can kind of get his get back here with a win over Nate Landwehr.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Landwehr in this one. I think Charrier is probably the better fighter pretty much across the board, but I feel like he's pretty much a guy that looks for big moments. And when he doesn't have one of those big moments, he tends to just kind of get outpointed in rounds. His record in fights that go to a decision is super sketchy. He's 5-10 in those type of fights, which is probably the worst decision record I've seen, especially for a guy that's 15-1 in fights that go to a finish. So basically in this one, just looking at a guy who's an underdog who isn't chinny and is pretty durable in Nate Landwehr. And it feels like a situation where you can take a grittier guy who's probably not going to get knocked out and use some of the value you're getting here to just take a chance on a guy that hasn't fared well in the decision game in the past. Obviously, you could pull off a moment of brilliance and this fight ends quickly, but at plus 220, I think I like the value there a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to Charrier by knockout. seeing variant strikes back. When Landwehr loses, it's typically by knockout. So, all right, on to the next one. Calvin Kattar versus Steve Garcia, who looks just annoyed to be here. So let's walk through it.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun, striking match. Calvin Kattar, very, very good. He's old at this point, but, he's been in some absolute wars, fought some of the best, has a lot of high-level wins. You'll see that he absorbs a lot more strikes than he lands, 6.62 to 4.6. That is skewed a lot because of the Max Holloway fight. That one fight pretty much just destroyed his striking differential forever. So take that with a grain of salt. He is going up against Steve Garcia, who's on a somewhat legendary streak right now, 5-fight knockout streak. And yeah, so this is going to be a fun striking matchup. I mean, Steve Garcia is totally willing to mix things up and go to the ground. I don't think Calvin is going to pressure that too much. He averages 0.36 takedowns a fight on 29% accuracy. So he really doesn't threaten that at all. It's going to be a striking match. And I do think Calvin Kattar has the ability to be the higher volume guy of the two. And the pressure is always a factor. That could be a problem for Steve Garcia. But I just don't have a ton of faith in Kattar at this point in his career. Like, I got to ride the hot hand in Steve Garcia, 5-fight knockout streak. I think he could keep it going because it's going to be standing up. Kattar hasn't won a fight in, I think, since early 2022. So yeah, he's past his prime 100%. Going to go with Steve.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at this one from an opposite lens here. I'm going to kind of buy low and sell high in this one. I think Kattar is kind of getting slept on a little bit, and this feels like a spot where he can kind of bounce back and show people that he's still closer to the guy that was looking like a great fighter not too long ago. Garcia's definitely been impressive. Not too impressed by the guys he's been fighting. I mean, he's done well. He's come out of them with a knockout, but just not super impressed and not enough to take him against Calvin Kattar. I think Calvin Kattar's the best of the guys that he's fought during this streak.
For sure.
And yeah, I think taking a guy who's, I believe, a slight underdog right now in kind of a buy low spot just feels like, just straight up looking at how the odds are manipulated in this one, that just feels like the way to possibly get the value here.
Yeah, I think there was like a huge odds shift too from like Garcia being like a 2-1 favorite right when they opened to the current odds.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I'm going with the Kattar side here by decision. I just think he's being slept on. It's really that simple, and Garcia's competition is questionable.
Milk Costa, dude?
Who?
Milk Costa. Steve Garcia knocked him out.
Yeah, I mean, look at who Calvin Kattar has went the distance with. I think that weighs more to me in terms of experience. All right, Stephen Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfim. Yeah, will the Wonder Boy stay alive or will he die? Find out this weekend.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I think this is my pick. I think is going to be Gabe Bonfim, but this is a fun one to take a dog on. Stephen Thompson. I might sprinkle a little bit just for Wonder Boy because I do think he 100% has a chance to win this. He still looks super good at this age, despite being like 41. He did most recently get knocked out by Joaquin Buckley, who's good. He was low-key beating Joaquin Buckley, maybe even high-key in that fight.
Yeah, the first like 10 minutes he looked
great. Yeah, still looks good. Still looks young. Got the karate style base. Really good striker. Decent takedown defense at 63%. It's really not that good, though. That's where most people expose him. I like most of the people Wonder Boy fights against are able to take him down. I think he gets taken down in just about every fight. So Bonfim, well-rounded guy, seems to be back on track after that loss with the Chaos Williams submission. Shot a really beautiful takedown when Chaos telegraphed his shot. Bonfim, I think, is a pretty big favorite in this one. Bonfim is obviously going to be shooting takedowns. He wants to get it to the ground against an elite striker like Wonder Boy, and that's pretty much what you're betting on here when you're taking a pick is whether Gabe is going to be able to get it to the ground, whether Wonder Boy is going to be able to stop that. I do think Bonfim is going to be able to get it to the ground eventually and has some success there. So I'm going to go with the Gabe side.
Yeah, me too. I think that the fight against Buckley, while it was impressive for the first 10 minutes, I think Buckley's game plan wasn't great in that one. I don't know how much it demonstrated of Thompson's ability. I think the speed and agility decline has definitely gotten in the way of the takedown defense a little bit, which was strong earlier in his career and allowed him to be standing up and striking. But I feel like Bonfim is the type of athlete and submission specialist that can get this one to the ground and fight towards a finish of some kind. So I'm going to take Bonfim inside the distance. Not sure which way yet, but
nice.
I'm just going to go with Bonfim by decision and see if Stephen Thompson can stay alive. Probably won't, but we can dream. We'll live and wonder, if you will. All right. Derrick Lewis versus Tallison Teixeira. I'm just going to preface, I want Derrick Lewis to win. I probably have next to no confidence in it, but I want him to win. So walk us through if I should have any hope or not.
I think there's definitely hope to be had. I mean, Tallison Teixeira, a guy who's obviously super scary, could be good. He hasn't been hit ever in the UFC. He's 6'7", 83-inch reach. Going to have a 4-inch reach advantage in this one. And he seems good despite being super untested. He's only 8-0. Derrick Lewis has 40 more professional fights than he does. Pretty good footwork in this, like on the feet for Tallison Teixeira, especially for his size. Very powerful. Definitely not afraid to engage with you. And he is just getting shot up the ranks super quick in this one. His first main event already getting shot up after that fight against Justin Tafa. I am not passionate about either side. I 100% think Derrick Lewis could get this. He's low volume, especially at this stage in his career, which I don't like. He kind of just stands there. I mean, that's kind of always how Lewis fights has been. He either finishes you or gets finished, and outside of a big shot here and there, it's pretty much just standing around in the cage. I think I'm going to go with Tallison. I think it'd be cool to see kind of like a passing of the guard moment here. Heavyweight division could definitely use some killers. Derrick Lewis is the KO king. Love him. I think it'd be more important for the division for Tallison to win, though. I think he's faster. He's definitely higher volume. These guys are both powerful. Both have a puncher's chance. I'm going to go with Teixeira.
Is that significant? Is that strikes landed per minute number real? Insanely high.
It's from one UFC fight, so
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just insane. But yeah, I mean, Derrick Lewis always has a puncher's chance. Give me the man.
Hell yeah.
I like the guy, so I think definitely falling forward a bit here. But I think in this one, while Teixeira is definitely probably more skilled, it feels like a spot where I don't think he really should be a minus 200 favorite, just kind of other than the hype that he's building up. I feel like this one's probably a little bit closer to 50-50 than that would say. I feel like Derrick Lewis should probably be like plus 130 or something like that. So I'm going to take the Derrick Lewis KO line here and hope he can fraud check an up-and-comer.
Yeah, if they weren't this large, I would say they was going to go to decision, but considering the age gap, I'm going to say Teixeira by knockout. That's the only reason I'm not on the Derrick Lewis side. But with that said,
definitely ending inside the first round or two, probably, either way it goes.
Yeah, they're swinging. But with that said, subscribe if you haven't already. Tail or not, entirely up to you at this point. Not really sure if it's more intelligent to do it now, considering the tax ramifications that are likely to come, but we'll see. So until next time, hope you all have a great day, and peace now.